I'm making an apricot and almond cake. This is a pretty easy cake to make. It's got those slightly chewy edges and the softest center, and it's actually not too sweet because of the tang from the apricots that's running through the cake, which makes this the perfect cake to have with tea. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to start by pitting the apricots. Make sure they are nice and ripe. Simply slit it down the middle and then twist it open, and the stone should just fall out. What we're going to do is we're going to puree half of the apricots and stir this into the cake batter, and then cut up the other half and dot it around so that you get the flavor rippling through the cake as well as bites of apricot here and there. I've gotten some smaller apricots today, so I am going to put the quantity in weight for you guys in the caption. Slice half of the apricots into quarters, and then the other half just pop it in your blender and puree it. Just until the fruit breaks down a little. It doesn't need to be a super smooth puree. Once that's done, set the apricots aside. Before making the cake batter, preheat your oven to 170 Celsius and also line your cake pan. Then, when your batter is ready, you just have to pour it in and pop it in the oven. To line the cake pan, cut a square of baking paper about an inch or so larger than the diameter of your pan. Fold this in half, then half again and again until you have a bit of a cone shape like this. Then, from the middle of the pan, leave about an extra inch or so of paper sticking out and then snip off the rest. Put a few slits in the paper like this, and then you have yourself the perfect lining for your cake pan. This is an 8-inch cake pan that I'm using for this. Set this aside and then measure out your dry ingredients. We are adding cake flour, ground almond or almond flour, and some baking powder. Sift this into a bowl, breaking up any big bits, especially of the ground almond, and then set this aside. And then into the bowl of your stand mixer, add room temperature butter, white sugar, vanilla paste or vanilla essence, and a bit of salt. Salt is a must for baked goods to bring out the sweetness and the depth of flavor. Crack 3 eggs into a bowl. I always prefer cracking all the eggs first and breaking it up with a fork and then pouring this into the batter a little at a time rather than cracking in one egg at a time straight into the batter. I swapped out the bowls here because it was easier to pour from the other bowl than this flat bowl. And then get the batter beating with the paddle attachment on a low to medium speed. Don't add any eggs yet. Let the batter beat for about 3 minutes or so, and then you'll notice it becoming a pale color. Scrape the bowl down at this point. I stress this in almost all of my baking videos. It's so important to scrape the bowl down at least twice when beating a batter to make sure that there aren't any lumps of sugar or butter sitting at the bottom unmixed. After you scrape the bowl down, we can start adding in the eggs. Do this a little at a time, letting it mix in well before you add the next bit of egg. Halfway through adding the eggs, scrape the bowl down again and then continue beating and adding the eggs. Once you're done adding in all the eggs, stop beating, and now we can fold in the dry ingredients. Sprinkle the dry ingredients in a large spoonful at a time and then gently fold this into the batter using a rubber spatula. Do this about a third of the flour at a time. And as the first spoonful of flour is almost mixed through, add in the next. When you're almost at the end, pour in the pureed apricots as well and then fold this all together so that the apricot puree is mixed through the cake batter. It should be this thick, beautiful batter with lots of orange bits speckled through it. Dab a bit of the cake batter around the baking pan and then stick the baking paper to the pan. Make sure all the little pieces of paper are nicely stuck to the pan so that it doesn't fold in and get baked into the cake. This is important because we aren't adding any icing to this cake, and we don't want any broken bits of cake when we take the paper off. Once your baking paper is secure, then add some apricot quarters around the base of the pan. Spoon the cake batter over the apricots and then use a spoon or spatula to flatten it out evenly to cover the entire pan. Line the rest of the apricots on top. Do this evenly so that every slice gets a nice bit of apricot to it. And then sprinkle lots of almond slivers on top of the cake. Tap it gently on the table and then pop this into the oven. Now this takes a little bit longer to bake than a regular cake. Normally, half an hour would be the maximum baking time, but this needs a good 40 to 45 minutes. But do check in on it at about the 25-minute mark to make sure that it's cooking evenly. You can lightly touch the center to gauge if it's baked or if it's still a little liquidy in the center. Or you can poke the cake with a skewer. If it comes out wet, then your cake needs a little bit longer to bake. Once the skewer comes out clean, your cake is done. Take it out of the oven and let it cool down for about 10 minutes. Then it should be cool enough to handle without burning yourself. Use a knife or spatula just to run around the edge of the cake to release it from the pan. Keep a plate over it and carefully flip the cake. Peel the paper and take a dish that you're serving this in and keep it over the bottom of the cake and flip it once more to reveal this golden brown cake with apricots and almonds running through it. Sprinkle this with a little bit of icing sugar just to add a little bit of extra sweetness because of the tang of the apricots cuts through the sweetness of this cake. You can serve this up as it is or chill it so that it's easier to cut into, or you can serve this with a nice dollop of whipped cream. I like it chilled, my husband liked it warm. Either way, this was an incredibly delicious cake. And the best part, you can even use fresh or canned apricots or even peaches to make this delicious cake at home. You know the drill. Please like, comment, and subscribe to Arubakes. Bye!